Being approached about this movie was a unique experience. I was filming Reacher, and I got a call from my team that Guy Ritchie had a film, and he wanted me to take a look at the script. So I read it over a weekend, and was, this is the kind of movie I think actors dream about doing, and of course working with Guy, it's anybody would say yes. So I'm reading the script going, I don't know. There was no character attached to it. They just wanted me to read it, and I loved it. I was riveted by the story, and I also couldn't really get a gauge of like who they were interested, because it could go either way. There was one character that was written like he was huge. There was another character that I was very interested in because he's kind of he's the character I'm playing now, but he was a badass. And so I was like, I told my team I loved the script, and Guy wanted to jump on a Zoom. So I get on a Zoom with Guy, and usually, there's like a few minutes of chit chat and you get to know each other. And then it's like, okay, so let's talk about this character. Let's talk about this movie. What do you see? What do I see? Is our vision aligned? And there was none of that. He was like, you look like a barbecue kind of. You love barbecues. You want to have a barbecue with me? And I was like, sure, I'd love to have a barbecue with you, Guy, anytime. He was like, do you want to do the movie? I was like, sure, I'd love to do the movie if you would like for me to do the movie. He was like, great, let's do the movie. I was like, okay. So I called my team and I was like, I think I just got the offer for the movie. I don't know if that was sincere. It seems too easy. But that was it. And then we did a deal for the movie. And then I'm playing Anna's Lassen. When I started studying these characters, I read 3 books about both the character that I play and the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, these declassified documents in 2012. And I'm disappointed that I didn't know more about these characters and these stories already, that, we're not like taught the lore of who these guys were in school. They're so heroic. And I think anytime you have these kind of protagonists that are historical but larger than life, they deserve to be seen in all their glory. The size and scope of what they were, their stature, deserves to be spread across that large screen, I think so. I think it's the only way to see this. Henry is the first one there, last to leave, always knows his stuff, is always positive, here to help make the movie the best movie it can be, and he leads by example. I'm so impressed. I've got a show where I'm number one, and I understand the pressure that is, the responsibility that is, and how people look to you and then decide what kind of movie are we making based on, what number one's approach is. I'm so impressed by who he is, seeing firsthand how he operates. So I've really enjoyed working with him so far. I realized right away Guy's process is this very exciting, organic, let's make sure that we've reimagined the best of what this could be, and if it's similar to what's on the page, great, and if not, even better. So it really puts you on your heels as an actor, especially when you're playing a character like so foreign to you. But then you realize tonally, this film is something totally different to Guy, which is why he's so good at what he does. He can put a stylized, personalized fingerprint on something that's just so him. And that's what he did. For us, just right out of the gate, there was sort of a cool factor to everything these characters did, a pace and a rhythm that was very offbeat. If you think you're coming in as like, a traditional army, you're running towards the front of the battlefield, like it was anything but that. There was a casual, nonchalant nature to the way these characters moved, and it made it funny. It was great to be out at sea, and I was pulling up to the ship one day with Henry Cavill, and I looked at him and I was like, this it doesn't happen, Only movies like this bring you to places like this, where we look behind us, we've got the mountains of Turkey, these beautiful azure waters, and this old pirate ship that we're pulling up to. I was like, this TV doesn't give you this. Very few jobs do. I said, this is like a dream, And he was like, agreed. It's It's just so cool to be a part of something like this. This cast, the main cast that I work with, Cavill, Pettifer, Goulding, and Hero, we've got a group of varying degrees of experience and age, and this a bright demographic. It's the kind of cast you dream about working with in like an ensemble piece like this. But it's when you get to know them as people, this is an egoless bunch who have all figured out a way to craft really distinct, unique voices for their characters, and it's so fun to watch everybody work. There's kind of a mutual love affair. Everybody looks at everybody else's character and they're like, "Oh, that's so good. It's so funny. Oh, you're the best character in this." And I was like, "No, you're the best. I watch you." And I'm like, "This is amazing. I can't wait." And everybody, I think, just can't wait to see everybody else on screen. And that's definitely how I feel. And I think when you get that kind of chemistry, the audience wins. The Fernando Poe mission is a story of the underdogs triumphing with the most impossible circumstances. And if you study the history of these characters, the journals, the diaries, the paperwork that they had to fill out at the end of each mission to explain, there's a really solid picture about what these guys went through, and they were always the underdogs. I mean, they never had the tools they needed. It would be so much easier to air raid that port and just decimate these ships and the areas where the Nazis had the turrets, guarding them. I mean, there were tools at the disposal of the Allied forces, but again, it was so politically precarious that they couldn't use those tools. So to have a group of guys who have to go in without the tools they need, nothing but the heart and the will and the mind to find a way to succeed at all costs. And then to see them do it is amazing. And we're seeing the truth of that come to life on screen. This is real. This is real heroics. I mean, it's one thing to play it. It's one thing to enjoy it on screen. It's another thing to know that these guys did this. These guys did this. There are real stakes here. Working with Guy Ritchie is unlike any experience I've ever had, and it's simultaneously the scariest and most exhilarating creative endeavor I've been a part of. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Heron, he's a guy that's sort of I want to say he's a spy. I want to say he's a spy, a special operative, the man on the ground, undercover in a certain way. And I just love that idea. I've always wanted to delve into characters like that and to do it on this kind of palette, on this kind of canvas. Something I was looking forward to, and it's sort of, Casablanca, and Rick, in his cafe. So that got me really excited about it. Marjorie is just this wild, funny, bold operative that Heron's got to, show around, and together they're going to cause some havoc. It's been fun. It's been fun. Isa, working with Isa has been really fun. She's wonderful. She's collaborative. She's easy to work with, and she's direct. And it's been a real lovely time working with her. Yeah. And of course, as Heron, I've worked mostly with Marjorie, but I do come in touch with the boys, you know, with Henry, the Henrys, and Alan and Alex and Hero, and it was fantastic. It's been fantastic working with them. Fun bunch of guys. And just, they get to the work, you know. Henry C. has been really cool. He's clearly into the work, and likewise for everybody else. And, you know, we've just really enjoyed ourselves, and yeah, and really trying to shape something that's different. With Guy's direction, I think that's just, there's just a certain spirit. There's an adventurous and sort of laissez-faire, but yet intense spirit that the guys bring. And I think that should give us something worth watching. It was my first time seeing it, so it was really quite beautiful. And it was special being out there. It was special being out in nature. The water is clear blue, beautiful, yet scary, because there were supposed to be tiger sharks or something down there, you know. It was like through their migration period, so it was a bit of, you know, make sure you do not fall in. Yeah, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic. Some people can't handle the high seas, but apparently I can. I've been a very big fan of Guy since, you know, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I was a massive fan of that, and then of course Snatch. So he's obviously one of those directors that I've always wanted to work with, and yeah, it was quite lovely and sane when that opportunity came around with Wrath of Man. But of course, this is a bit more substantial in terms of in terms of Heron, in terms of the size of the character. And so, yeah, so I've been really excited to work with Guy, and it's just been wonderful. He's, you know, he's got his ways, he's direct, he's funny, he's, you know, moment to moment changing of ideas, and, you know, and just dialogue, and yet when it comes out, it makes complete sense. You know, I think when audiences go to the theaters to see this, they would see a big film on the big screen with adventure, with action, thrill and action, with a wild, beautiful, on point Guy Ritchie touch.
So, yeah, it's based on a true story, my understanding of which it was the first clandestine mission in modern times. Let's call it, I was going to say this century, but the last one. And it gave birth to special forces in various countries, America, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. Not sure if there's anything else in that equation. But yeah, it gave birth to all of that, and they started to realise how effective special forces could be. So that in itself is enough of a story, and I suppose it was a story about the odds. The odds were, you know, preposterously against them, and that's great aggregate for fun storytelling. I think what has to happen is you have to understand the characteristics of the historical characters that you're playing, the fundamental character of the role that your actors are then playing. As long as you understand the fundamental essence of who they are, then everything else sorts itself from there. The character sort of writes its own script and its own story, if you will. They write their own character. So you do have to do some historical research on who those characters are. And then, as I say, the characters themselves almost give birth to their own dialogue just by the benefit of understanding the fundamental character of who the historical character was. I made a movie previously with Henry called Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I enjoy very much. Henry and I get on, we work well together. I think he trusts me, and he just had the requisite characteristics that I thought we could elicit together. So it just sort of made sense, really. He understood the character very quickly, and once he understood the character, then most of the work was done. Asa was so enthusiastic initially about acquiring this role, and enthusiasm goes a long way in my world. So she was enthusiastic, she was confident that she could do the RP, the accent, which is not easy to do. She pulled that off very well. So it was really just a question of did I believe that she could do it, right? And she could, and she demonstrated her ability to embody that personality very quickly. So it wasn't a complicated choice. Alan played Anders Lassen. Anders Lassen is seen as one of the pioneer characters that the SBS founded their ethos upon, which is a form of controlled and trained and experienced madness. And Alan sort of understood that character pretty quickly. And funny enough, all the characters really managed to, I would have said within minutes, understood exactly what those characters were going to be. I mean, we wrote most of the dialogue on the day. All the actors were up for that. And as I said previously, as long as you understand who those characters are and they're modelling on who they're modelling that their character upon, then really all the work was done. That was the most important thing, is for them to understand who their historical character was based upon. And Anders Lassen, who was a Danish aristocrat, I seem to remember, that found himself on these shores for one reason or another, was clearly quite brilliant at manifesting appalling things, which was quite necessary to manifest at that period in time. He's a pleasure to work with, Jerry. He's a pleasure to work with. He's obviously incredibly experienced. A rather gentle soul, interested in creativity, very easy to work with, very collaborative, and it's rather interesting to have such a legend, someone that's so experienced and such a lover of film. I think first and foremost is to understand and appreciate the love and knowledge of film that Jerry Bruckheimer has. It's quite unique. Where you really want to end up is in the world of people that are passionate about their jobs. Jerry is like wildly passionate about his vocation and is as excited now. I can't imagine that he was any more excited in his youth, because it's quite hard to be more excited than he is now. So really, first and foremost, he's a lover of films, and it doesn't wish in any way to undermine the director. He's rather cunning like that, and I mean cunning in a very positive way. He's there really to collaborate and assist in as many ways as he can. Really, he's just a sort of perfect partner in film. Really what you want is just partners that are collaborative and generous, really, in the filmmaking process. And Jerry was all of those things: experienced, collaborative, positive, and certainly not lazy. Shooting on HMS Belfast, I think I went on there in 1975 with my mum. where it would look comparatively modern. So, and it's lived on the Thames. I could get there in about 15 minutes on my bicycle from here. It's one of those things that sat there as a London landmark for as long as I've been around. And then when you find out how many times that boat has circumnavigated the globe, that induces some respect for it. I mean, you'd have no idea that, we shot that 15 minutes from here in the middle of London. That was rather useful, having the authentic bit of kit 15 minutes from here. Selfishly, I wanted to tell a story about the Second World War because that is the spaghetti westerns and Second World War films were what I was weaned on. And the idea that I could take a sojourn into the creative world of storytelling in the genre, it's a natural fit, principally because it was where the genesis of my interest in films came from. If you're going for the full experience, you've just got to go to the cinema to have the full experience. I don't think there's any ambiguity about that. It's also the sound. The sound that reverberates through your body elicits a completely different experience. So a 40-foot screen as opposed to a 14-inch screen, plus the complication of creating and sophistication of creating the sound. I don't think people really understand what goes into a sound mix. I mean, it's a massive part of filmmaking is the sound mix process. It takes forever, costs a fortune, and you have very, very clever people that do this for a long time. So to really enjoy the full audio experience, you can only really do that at the cinema. So the complete experience, it's really worth going to the cinema for.
So the story is really important to be told on the big screen. I think this is one of the first modern day sort of tellings of the conception of the SOE, which is the Special Operations Executive. It's a band of men and women that Winston Churchill put together to complete, under the cover of deniability, these operations which really swayed the war for Great Britain. And so they were a really integral part of defeating the Nazis and accomplishing the goals that were set. So my character, Freddy the Frog, he's a frogman. So he's a waters expert, a demolitions expert. He's a cool, calm, collected young man who has a very sort of strong and concrete presence. And so when everything's sort of hitting the fan, you can trust Freddy to be, the cool hand Luke of the company, and for me it was really sort of putting my trust in Guy. It was what brought me to the character, was the fact that I know that each and every single one of those characters on screen is going to have that flair, and so I didn't see it in the initial draft, but I knew they were going to make something out of everybody. And that's what they told us, and that's exactly what's been done. Creating the look of Freddy is always a team effort. We have the amazing head of wardrobe, Loulou, who picks out some of the most phenomenal outfits for all of us. And then Guy always has the last say and always has the last little twizzle on the hat, how we wear the hat. he's a very stylish man. He's got great taste, and I think he's put that into all of our characters. And often is the case that we come on set and he's like, "Ooh, what size are you in that?" You know, looking to steal the jacket after, because especially Heron's costume, he's definitely, Babs is the sharpest chap on set. So a lot of the boys on set are sort of like, "Oh, what size is that, Babs? Oh yeah, nice." So you'll find that a lot of that goes missing by the end of production. And I think generally we're just a bunch of very stylish sailors. And it's such an amazing era, like 1940s and 30s, of like wonderful fashion. And so we're going to bring it back. And we've all said between ourselves, we're like, I think I'm going to adopt like the old breeches and baggy trousers and the woolly knits. So yeah, it's got a real style to it. So Gus and Freddy, I think they go pretty far back. I think Freddy is one of his most trusted men. Everybody on this mission is picked because of their past history with Gus, and I think they've completed missions beforehand, and so it's one of those relationships which has absolute trust, and we know when the captain says something, it'll get done, because the boys will do literally anything for Gus, and trust his judgment, trust his direction, and things just get done with him. I think the relationships between all of us actually has a great sense of humor. We don't have particular sort of characters that we bag on. Often Hazy's at the butt end of certain jokes just because he's the youngest of the group, and so there's always that fun kind of humor. And Lassen is just one of those guys that you love to, I don't know, I suppose just enjoy watching him kill Nazis, which is such a terrible thing to say, but not at the same time, because we do take so much joy in what Alan brings to the character, and that's just this sheer ferocity. And Lassen historically was rather unhinged, so to see that is awesome. So our experiences out at sea have been amazing. You know, a lot of these films that get made these days, it's always on a green screen, it's always kind of, you know, in a studio, and they found the perfect maid-honor, and they brought it, I think it was in Europe somewhere, and they brought it down to the coast of Turkey, and we've spent the past sort of 2 weeks filming on it. Being out, like, I've got fantastic sea legs. Alex doesn't have, he probably has the worst sea legs, but he was fine. He was absolutely fine. But to be out there in the ocean on a sailboat is phenomenal. And it just gives this just reality to it all, and it's just gonna look phenomenal on screen. So this is my second time working with Guy Ritchie. I worked on The Gentleman. I played Dry Eye, and had the most amazing time doing that process. And this trumps that, just because of the circumstance and because of the cast and because of the movie. So I'm excited for everybody to see this on the big screen, because I think the characters are just going to pop out like Guy Ritchie's characters always do. And you'll have everyone rooting for them, and that's what we want to do. We're making something that's going to entertain, you know, with an amazing, unbelievable historical story to it, but with that Guy Ritchie twist.
Well, Ministry is something that's so interesting because it was files that were put away for years, and recently put out to the public. It's Churchill's Secret Files. And I always like to look underneath what's really going on to find out the core of what happened during World War II. It was such a frightening experience, especially for Britain, who was constantly getting bombed all during this period. And the fact that Churchill had these men that he created that went out and turned the war in Britain's favor and actually got America into the war. So I love to give its verisimilitude, telling stories that are real and true and exposing audiences to something like that. And I think we've done it a number of times, telling true stories, and audiences just love it. There are certain people in this business you want to work with before it ends, for me. And Guy Ritchie was one of them. Guy Ritchie is somebody, he's an iconic director. He's somebody that always brings life and interesting subject matters and picks interesting actors and has such a command of the medium and is a fabulous filmmaker. And that's, my whole career is built on Guy Ritchie's, people who are excellent at what they do and make something really special. And he's making a very special movie with a phenomenal cast. Guy has made him come alive and just give this fascination about Churchill and about what he did, and against the odds of the bureaucracy and Parliament, who didn't want him to do it and did it behind their backs to send these men out. And the men were individuals who thought for themselves. They couldn't be in the military because they couldn't take orders. Yet they went on this very dangerous mission, knowing that chances are they wouldn't come back. And they were all just scrappy individuals who were brilliant and thought on their own and went out and did this amazing thing that changed the war. Damien was always our touchstone. He was somebody we always went to for authenticity. If we came up with things or put things in the screenplay that we weren't sure actually happened, we went to Damien. Damien was a big reason this movie got made, just by his expertise and knowing the subject matter, digging into the files, creating this phenomenal book. And that you can't have anything that works this well without somebody like Damien working on it. I'm really a big fan of history and like to enlighten audiences about what happened in the past, because if you don't know what happened in the past, you're going to repeat it in the future, and that's not good. So this was a story that is something that captured my imagination. And I make movies that I want to see. It's not that I just go make movies because I know the audience is going to love it. I had no idea what an audience likes, but I do know what I love and what I want to go see, what I pay my money to go see. And this is the kind of movie I would go see. It's a big adventure. It's got fabulous characters, and it's a part of history. Now you're not only being entertained, but you're being educated. And that is the best part of entertainment, when you can educate an audience on something they didn't know anything about, that's actually true and real. That's really a wonderful thing to be able to do. Well, guys, we're making a Guy Ritchie film, let's face it. And he's a master craftsman, a master director. And I'm just here to support him, to try to help and do whatever I can to make his life a little easier and get him what he needs and make sure that everything is there for him to make a terrific movie. That's what a good producer does. I think that putting the cast together is something that Guy and all of us, worked very hard on. Guy especially, and Ivan really kind of found the best actors for these particular parts, and a lot of actors that I hadn't worked with and wanted to work with. So I'm very fortunate that they have such a good eye. And you look at that cast, and men are so handsome, eyes beautiful. So it's really, they're wonderful to look at, and they're terrific actors. So that's really nice to see them on that big screen. Well, the thing you wanted to get a British director who understood that period of time. And Guy has the experience, has the age, has the knowledge. He's a fan of history and studied history And he really gravitated towards the material. He hung with us for a long time until we finally got it set up. So he was really somebody that stuck with us because it was a long period of time. I'm sure he did 2 movies or 3 movies by the time we got this one made. You know, I'm a big fan of Churchill. So just to have that history around him, is an amazing individual. He's somebody that really saved Britain from the Nazis, just with his energy and his speeches. He kept the will of the people to fight this terrible war when they were being bombed every night, and they had no water, they had no heat, they had no food, and yet him on the radio inspired all the Britons to stick with it and not give up, not give in. And he made that fantastic, great speech, which everybody quotes today. When you see Ministry on a big screen, it's going to have the energy and the intelligence that Guy Ritchie brings to a movie. And it's going to take you into a period that was very dire for Britain, and how these men and a woman came and changed the course of the war. And it's action-packed, it's romantic, it's got a lot of style and pizzazz and the wit of Guy. And that's why people loved watching his movies.
I mean, 1940s and 50s are 2 of my favourite decades in fashion history. So to do a World War II movie with Guy, I knew would be a wild and fun adventure, especially costume-wise. Guy cares very much about clothing, fabrics, how everybody looks on camera. So I knew this would be a wild and fun adventure to create a 40s wardrobe through the eyes of Guy and me. It's difficult doing research, especially anything Special Forces, 1940s. Any of the picture references I found were really in books, especially Damian Lewis's Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. But I really dug deep into that whole world of merchant seamen, and you can see the textures, the prints, and the style in which all of these lads in those days wore their clothes. So it was important for me that each one of our 5 guys had their own sense of style through not just what they're wearing, but how they wear it, giving them all their own unique silhouettes. So you can essentially tell who's who just by looking at their silhouette. The trick is really to say, you know, what jumps out at you and what do you like about what that man is wearing, or what do you not like. And each of them had their own sense of style that they noticed. So it was important to bring that element into their capsule wardrobes that I created, and then when you have them into the fitting, I think it's important to let them take the lead a little bit in what and how they want to wear it, and then I just tidy it up in the end. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm only going to present them with clothes that I want them to wear anyway, so giving them a bit of freedom lets them think a little bit like they're in charge, but I'm still in charge. So I worked really closely with our production designer, Martin John, to make sure the fabrics and the colours that I was using for each of them worked with the sets and the environment. And then we've got Edward, our amazing DP. And because we're shooting out at sea, it's really important that all of those colours work out there in this wonderful natural daylight too. So we have Asa, who is playing our leading Lady Marjorie. By far, probably my favourite and most beautiful wardrobe I've created to date. It's just phenomenal. And she has an amazing natural silhouette anyway, which is very true to the 40s, so we had a lot of fun. And she has a lot of great looks as well. So she's a secret agent. There's some action in there for her. There is also the day-to-day, so you've got some beautiful 40s skirt suits. And then we have the fancy dress party, where originally it wasn't the Cleopatra costume. I did have to convince a few people that that was the way to go. Once I put her in the Cleopatra dress, it wasn't too difficult to convince anybody because she looks phenomenal. And then any other excuse I could have really to get her into a new costume, I did, and worked closely with Guy and Max to make sure that we could do that. But her wardrobe is absolutely beautiful. It's all bespoke, all nods to the 1940s, but then heightened for her character and all the action and the journey that she goes through. Then when you're working with a director like Guy Ritchie, who, you know, he's infamous for having a particular type of look and style to each of his films. So then I have to look through it all with his eyes, with his sense of style in mind. And that's when it becomes a little bit more fun. You know, in every one of his films, he has almost like a group or a gang look for everybody. And it was important to me that I created that for our leading lads, our merchant seamen, special forces guys. So they don't just look fantastic on their own, but they look brilliant as a unit. So it's fun, it's exciting, it's action-packed, it's beautiful. One, I think people you're gonna know it's a Guy Ritchie film, but it's not gonna be like any Guy Ritchie film he's done before. I'm excited to see it, so I'm sure the Guy Ritchie fans will absolutely love it.
What interested me? Well, it's a Guy Ritchie movie, obviously, so that's going to be my first interest. Working with Guy Ritchie again, that's great. I think, yeah, no, we're here for, shooting in Turkey. It's a great place to be shooting. The script, again, to do with the SAS and stuff like that, being established very early on in World War II, and knowing the story and the backstory of that is, yeah, really good thing to be part of. Again, filming out at sea was, that's got its own complications, let's just say. Obviously the weather being one of them. Again, prevising that, I went out for a couple of days and I prevised that on the boat, the maid honour sequence we did there, and we put an action sequence together with the guys, just to sort of give everyone an idea of what we could potentially do on that boat. The boat we didn't get well, I certainly didn't get it 2 days until we shot the sequence, which means I had 2 days to put a previs together with 20 guys, basically. We had like 12 or 15 sailors that get onto that boat, and then we have like 3 of the actors that are on there, and they all have to be part of that action in that sequence. So, yeah, I had 2 days to go down there, put a sort of action story sequence together, and then shoot it like 2 days later, which we did, and it was great. The script changed like literally the day before, and Apple's character was now in this his holdout, in this holding area that was he was captured basically. So none of that was scripted. So I then had to make up, let's just say, the dialogue of what was happening within that Nazi camp, where he was, how they were going to attack it, who was going to attack it, how they got separated, as in the actors attacking it, from my perspective. So I sort of was telling the story right at the beginning for everyone to sort of have an idea of how it could be played. And we did something very similar to that as well. Guy did change it up a bit, and he sort of, you know, put the actors here. Alan Richardson's character, Lassen, he's got a bow. How does he use that bow? How does he take out the people? Obviously, when you're attacking some sort of camp like that, you're trying to keep it real, but obviously it is a movie, so you want to just be on the realms of realistic all the time, and then you can just, you know, just dip over the edge if you have to. So it felt right for me to Lassen to take out people with the bow from long distance in the towers and stuff like that, and then they go through the fence and then they attack. again, the movies that we always put together, it's always, time scale is very short. So everyone has to work really, really hard to pull things together. And working with Guy and his team and everyone around it, not just in Turkey, but the whole of production, we all know that, things have to happen, and they have to happen quickly and efficiently to bring the best out in the movie, I think, yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a Guy Ritchie movie. So it's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be great action, and it's going to be fabulous.